The Monkees were a manufactured band that dominated the world in the 1960s. They were referred to as the Pre-Fab Four by their fans. On the other hand, in the year 2019, a horrific event took place that revealed the unfortunate reality that lies beneath the smiles and harmonies. During what had the potential to be the band's most successful reunion tour ever, the drummer who was responsible for bringing the band to life left the stage, resulting in the destruction of friendships and the heartbreak of supporters. After decades of having a history together, what could possibly motivate a man to turn his back on his musical brothers? The drummer Micky Dolenz was not supposed to be Micky Dolenz. His birth name was George Michael Dolenz Jr., and he was born in Los Angeles in 1945. By the time he put in an audition for a groundbreaking new television show in 1965, he was already an experienced child actor. For young men were needed to play in a rock band, and the producers were seeking for them. Imagine a combination of the Beatles with sitcom comedy. Although Dolenz had been in a number of television shows throughout the 1950s, including Circus Boy, music was not his primary emphasis. It was when he was cast as the wild-haired drummer in the band that would later be known as the Monkees that everything changed about him. In September of 1966, the show made its debut on NBC, and quickly after, it became an immediate cultural hit. The Monkees, in contrast to other bands of the same period, were formed particularly for the purpose of performing on television, with each member being cast to play a distinct role. Although they were criticized for being a manufactured boy band, there was no denying the fact that they were extremely successful. This show only aired for a total of 2 seasons. When compared to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones combined, the Monkees sold more records than either of those bands simultaneously. The creative friction that had been building up behind the scenes from the very beginning came as a surprise to a lot of readers and viewers. Dolenz, Davy Jones, Peter Tork, and Michael Nesmith were the 4 members of the band, and at first, they were not permitted to play their own instruments on recordings. In the time that the performers were performing on screen, session musicians were responsible for the music. This arrangement was a source of frustration for the members of the band, particularly Nesmith, who had already established himself as a talented musician and songwriter before joining the band. In spite of the fact that he had never received any kind of proper drumming instruction, Dolenz devoted himself wholeheartedly to learning how to play the instrument. Through unrelenting practice, he was able to cultivate a unique and energizing playing technique that eventually became synonymous with the sound of the Monkee. While we were filming, I was required to learn how to play the drums, as he recalled in the future. In order to avoid disturbing the other performers, I would practice in between takes, sometimes using headphones to keep my ears quiet. Throughout the decades that followed, his relationship with the band would be defined by this determination. It was not until 1967 that the members had successfully fought for and won the ability to play their own instruments and to have a greater degree of creative control over their music. The harm to their reputation as false musicians had already been done by the time albums such as Headquarters were released, despite the fact that they displayed true musical ability. 1968 was the year that the program was canceled, and 1970 was the year that the band truly disbanded. In spite of the fact that numerous reunions and tours would continue on an irregular basis throughout the subsequent decades. From the beginning, the relationship between the Monkees and reunion tours was fraught with difficulties. Over the course of the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, numerous iterations of the band's original members would get back together for anniversary tours and record releases. These reunions were frequently characterized by disagreements regarding creative endeavors, issues regarding finances, and personal tensions that had never entirely healed from the initial breakdown of the partnership. 1986, the year that marked the band's 20th anniversary, was the year that saw the most successful reunion. One of the original members, Michael Nesmith, quit the band in the middle of a major tour, while the other 4 original members participated in new records and the tour. The tour was a huge commercial success, which demonstrated that fans who had grown up watching the Monkees continued to feel a strong sense of nostalgia for the band. On the other hand, consecutive reunions grew ever more challenging to successfully plan. The passing of Davy Jones in 2012 was a devastating event for both the remaining members and the fans. Prior to his departure, Jones had been the major lead vocalist and the group's heartthrob. His passing left a hole in our lives that appeared to be hard to fill. The passing of Peter Tork in 2019 further reduced the number of members who were still alive to simply Dolenz and Nesmith together. As a result of these losses, any hypothetical reunion became not only more valuable, but also more complex. It was a burden for every remaining member to carry the responsibility of representing their deceased bandmates, while simultaneously coping with their own age and developing thoughts on their collective legacy. The Monkees fan community experienced a surge of enthusiasm at the beginning of 2019, when widespread speculations began to circulate regarding a significant reunion tour. Due to the fact that only Dolenz and Nesmith are still active, it is quite probable that this will be the last chance for fans to witness the remaining original participants performing together. Despite their senior age, the Monkees continued to attract considerable ticket sales, which led concert producers to see dollar signs. Additionally, nostalgia tours created a significant amount of revenue for the band. The initial conversations appeared to be fruitful. Both Dolenz and Nesmith gave the impression that they were interested in paying tribute to their deceased bandmates, while also providing fans with one final opportunity to witness the Monkees perform live. On the other hand, as the planning process advanced, Dolenz and the tour promoters started to have fundamental issues with one another. The set list was the subject of the first significant disagreement. The promoters wanted to place a large emphasis on the most successful songs. Songs such as Daydream Believer, Last Train to Clarksville, and I'm a Believer are examples of such songs. These were the songs that would sell tickets and satisfy casual fans who were anticipating an experience similar to that of a greatest hits album. Dolenz, on the other hand, had a variety of suggestions for how to pay tribute to the band's heritage. Differences of opinion on finances shortly followed. A number of inquiries were raised concerning the distribution of royalties, particularly with relation to the sale of items and the possibility of live album releases resulting from the tour. Dolenz believed that the estates of Jones and Tork should be taken into mind in any financial arrangements that were made, despite the fact that the typical four-way split was no longer applicable because there were only two members who were still alive. The moment that Dolenz requested creative control over the artistic direction of the tour was the moment that marked the breaking point. Due to the fact that he had been affiliated with the Monkees for more than half a century, he held strong beliefs regarding the manner in which the band should be presented to audiences. When he wanted to create a more intimate and contemplative presentation that recognized the whole span of their musical journey, he wanted the ability to incorporate deeper album cuts, share stories about his bandmates who had passed away, and create a show that was more intimate. Nevertheless, the promoters were concerned with the commercial feasibility of the event. I wanted to do something meaningful, something that would properly respect Davey and Peter, and they wanted a program that was simplified, hit-heavy, and would appeal to the biggest possible audience. Dolenz later verified that this was what they desired. However, the promoters only requested that we play the hits and keep things straightforward. The quarrel that resulted from this basic divergence over creative vision was one that could not be resolved. At this point in his life, Dolenz had reached a point where maintaining his artistic integrity was more important than pursuing financial success. He was 74 years old at the time, and he was aware that this might be his last chance to exhibit the Monkees on his own circumstances. Just a few weeks before the tour was supposed to be officially announced, Micky Dolenz made the startling decision to fully withdraw from the tour. Fans who had been excitedly anticipating the reunion were crushed by the announcement, which sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, also known as the entertainment industry. This resulted in an immediate and excruciating consequence. Michael Nesmith, who had been planning to take part in the tour, discovered that his last remaining bandmate had abandoned him by the time the tour began. Their friendship, which had endured challenges and triumphs over the course of several decades, was put to the ultimate test. The two men were reportedly having furious phone talks with one another as they attempted to rescue the situation, according to industry insiders. Journalists covering music were frantically trying to figure out what had taken place. According to the initial reports, the withdrawal probably occurred because of health concerns or issues with the schedule. Nevertheless, it became apparent that the true problems went much deeper than that. According to those who were close to the negotiations, the nature of the creative and financial disagreements that had caused the reunion to be derailed was exposed. Micky Dolenz turned his energies into a different form of legacy preservation in the months that followed the cancellation of the reunion. Instead of surrendering his artistic vision in order to participate in a commercial tour, he focused on archive initiatives that gave him the opportunity to convey the history of the Monkee in a manner that was appropriate to him. It was around this time that he started working on thorough reissues of the band's repertoire, making certain that alternative versions and tunes with less popularity received the respect they deserved alongside the band's classics. In addition to their image as a young heartthrob, these releases highlighted the depth and subtlety of the Monkees' musical progression. Dolenz also went on a series of small solo performances, during which he was able to relate the whole narrative of the Monkees. These performances included personal anecdotes about his relationships with Jones, Torque, and Nesmith. Through these shows, he demonstrated that his intuitions about what the public truly desired were justified. In addition to the surface-level nostalgia, audiences were eager to learn more about the story's deeper meaning. Furthermore, the relationship between Dolenz and Nesmith continued to be fraught with tension. Despite the fact that they had a great deal of history in common, the two men were unable to reconcile their disagreements over the manner in which their legacy should be celebrated. The fact that Dolenz had to pay a personal price for his principled stance brought yet another dimension of melancholy to the narrative. In the present day, Micky Dolenz continues to perform and maintain the legacy of the Monkee in accordance with his own artistic standards. The fact that his archive releases have received praise from members of the music community demonstrates that his idea of how the band ought to be remembered was correct. Although it is possible that fans will never see the reunion tour that they had hoped for, Dolenz's dedication to maintaining creative integrity has meant that the narrative of the Monkee will be told in a manner that is both comprehensive and honest. We appreciate you watching. You may view another video by clicking here, and you should also make sure to subscribe to our channel.